place turn, to your sacred space yearn, to the holiness go, to most sacred of all. The place your soul comes alive, your soul comes alive, and your spirit will fly. There you'll sing songs, you'll whisper silent whispers in Jerusalem's splendor, place of harmony. La 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 la
It felt like when I got my ordination, I didn't really feel that I had the skills to be the kind of a rabbi that I really thought a rabbi should be. It came to a point where I didn't feel I was growing spiritually anymore. And I felt that I was being discouraged from attempting to grow more as an individual. And that was one of the things that led to my leaving the Hasidic establishment.
Should you tell him he's awake? Let's discuss the situation, if you please.
If you tell the sleeping person that he really is asleep, he'll never say Gesundheit when you sneeze.
If you see a sleeping person who's been sleeping way too long, you tell him he's asleep and it's all right.
Only makes the sleep get deeper, and the person who's the sleeper stays asleep until he's tired of the night, which may be never.
On the other hand, suppose you tell the sleeper he's awake. Would he stay awake or go right back to bed?
But how can he go wrong if he's been sleeping all along? So what's the use of anything we said? Good night!
And here come two more colorful citizens of Splat, our two-town psychotherapists, Yin Kadoodle and Lila Toad, who for the past 8 years have been each other's only two clients.
Lila, for the last time, stop projecting.
I'm not projecting. You're being defensive.
I don't cop to that.
But that's because you haven't come to terms with your fear of rejection.
My fear of rejection? We were talking about your guilt for not attending our last 2 sessions.
Here's Kadenka, the flower child.
This is where they turn. This could have been never been intermission. But we're going to get you in your secret religion. There is no way to make it. This is where they turn. This could have been never been intermission. But we're going to get you in your secret religion. There is no way.
Growing up, the toilet paper was cut before Shabbos so you didn't have to tear it on Shabbos. If by accident you flicked on the light switch Friday night, and you flicked off the light switch Friday night, everyone had to go to the bathroom in the dark for the rest of Shabbos. This was sort of my traditional upbringing. But then, fast forward to after I'd become a rabbi in an ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Lubavitch group, I was sent to bring back a Zen teacher to Lubavitch. And he challenged me to a Zen duel, the stakes of which were, you want me to come back to Lubavitch? Whoever wins the Zen duel will become the other one's student. We do this a lot in Zen anyway. And he said, will you come and meditate with me? I said, I'd love to, but I won't go into that Zendom. I've told some of you this story. Some of you know this story already. And he says, why not? I said, because you bow to an idol. And as an Orthodox Jew, I can't even go into a room where such a thing happens. So he says, well, just come to the door. I just went to the door, picked up the idol, the Buddha, and he says, rants at me. He says, you think I bow to this? Are you crazy? You think I pay like homage to this object? He winds up like a baseball player. He throws it with all his force into the woodshed where they keep the wood. It ricochets, bang, 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 bang. Would you do that with the Torah? I'm still working on that koan. Would I? Jeez. No. So I stayed a few months later. Instead of him coming back to Lubavitch, I was meditating in the Zen Center. He never picked up the Buddha idol. I was there for months and it was just lying there. He told everyone to leave it. Just to as an education for them also. So, but everything I was doing, every time I had an insight in meditation was, well, this is just like Judaism. I would, on the 5th day of 7-day meditation, my knees burning, I would say, this is just like Judaism. Everything was just like Judaism to me. And so eventually I sort of wended my way back to Judaism, and I found a place in California where they were doing Tai Chi to the Hebrew letter movements, and blending East and West. And so here we are. The orientation I was given to Judaism that I picked up was the story of Rabbi Zusha, who was a great Hasidic master who didn't know Torah very much. You could become a great Hasidic master without knowing a lot of Torah. And once they tested him, because they said, this guy doesn't sound like he knows a lot of Torah. So they said, Rabbi, what is the answer in such a situation? You would have had to know the Jerusalem Talmud. Now, you only studied the Jerusalem Talmud once you finished the Babylonian Talmud. They said, this guy never finished the Babylonian Talmud. So let's ask a question that you would only know if you would finish the Babylonian Talmud and knew the Jerusalem Talmud. And he thought for a second, he says, well, I think this is the answer. And he gave the exact right answer, worded just like the Jerusalem Talmud. Wow. And he said, this guy couldn't have known that. How did he know to say that? They said, I still don't believe he knows that. And conversing with a contemporary Rabbi Zusha, they said, he probably got it from the same place that the Jerusalem Talmud got it from. One of the reasons he didn't know a lot of Torah was because he couldn't get past the first line. When the Maggid, his teacher, would say, okay, he started off, and God spoke to Moses and said, and the Maggid would go on, but Reb Zusha in the back of the room would say, "Oy, the Rebbe said, God spoke." God spoke, what does that mean? Moses heard, God spoke, and the older advanced students would say, okay, he's starting again, pick him up, throw him out. They picked him up, he says, God spoke, the Rebbe said, God spoke. Did he hear it? What was it like? I want to hear God speak too. So they threw him out, and he went and wandered in the woods for a while, and he came back after the teaching was over. So he missed all the teachings. But he got the essence of the teaching right away, So he was like a really deep person. So there's a way of, in answer to your question, my orientation was, when you look at Judaism on the paragraph level or the page level, it's an illusion. There's a net that captures you and say, oh, this is what Torah is. That's not so sophisticated. But if you look at it with a microscope, it gets very interesting. If you look just, Vayom, God spoke, and stop there, you're going to get the essence of it. But if you read the whole page, you're going to get turned off. So the Meta-Siddur was made to focus on details. Microscoping, always focusing in on one line, half a line. When the Vilna Gaon was told, the Hasidim are focusing on they're breaking up verses. And Vilna Gaon says the Talmud does that too. That's not a complaint about the Hasidim. If the whole Torah is, every word has 70 explanations, then you can stop on one word. And so this was one answer of, I just wrote up my notes from a class, and they said other people would want this, and I just kept adding to it and adding to it. One more story about this Zen guy, and the challenge he gave me to bring Judaism to his level. This was a guy, in the 60s, he rode around in a van that had a wood stove in it. And so he was chugging along the highway, pouring out smoke, and the policeman pulled him over to the side and started to write him a ticket for polluting or something. And they got into talking, and this guy's very articulate, and after a while the policeman said, I'm not going to write you the ticket, I'm going to let you go. But just tell me one thing, isn't this all a bunch of words? And that's like the wrong thing to say to a Zen guy. And without thinking, which is sort of what they want to get you to do in Zen, is sort of like just to be and not to be thinking, he pushed the policeman, who rolled down the hill. Like he fell off, got off balance, rolled down the hill. And he said, oh, now I've done it. The policeman came up, dusted himself off, bowed to him, got in his cruiser, and then drove away. So there's, that's what Purim is all about. If Purim is a miracle, it's a miracle that violates no laws of nature, unlike Passover, right, where God came down, plagued the Egyptians, broke the nature of water so that it's not an ocean, but it's standing like a wall. That's a miracle that violates the laws of nature. Purim is a miracle that doesn't violate any of the laws of nature. So, if we were to sort of like domesticate this idea of miracle, maybe we could call a miracle is a natural event that evokes awe and wonder that doesn't come all that often. It's like a rare natural event, but still evokes awe and wonder. Maybe that would be like a Purim miracle. It's said about Esther that her father died after conceiving her. Her mother died after giving birth to her. She was rough on her parents and grew up as an orphan, raised by someone who wasn't her biological parents, Mordecai. And I thought that in a way that how many people here are following a spiritual path like their parents, exactly like their parents? One. Mazel and bracha. Many of us find ourselves to be more like Esther, following a spiritual path that's unlike those of our parents. She was just there in the right place in the right time for a miracle to happen through her. So, getting back to a personal Purim, so what would be examples of a natural event in your life that doesn't break any laws of nature, but yet amazes you, evokes awe and wonder? Why do you keep making new things up all the time? Wouldn't it be better if you sort of like got a repertoire of ideas that you sort of like perfected and fine-tuned and presented, rather than presenting this whole new stuff all the time? And I said, Rosalman, this is what I have to do. I can only do this. It comes from, I think, a place inside me of where, you see, it underlies and suffuses. It underlies and suffuses. It's so rich. It underlies and suffuses. And I can't do Purim this year like I did it last year. If I'm doing it this year like I did it last year, then I haven't grown. if I have a repertoire on Shabbos that I repeat, it's almost like I'm not tuning into what's really going on that time. It takes a sense of daring and a willingness to fall flat on my face, which I often do when the energy doesn't come through the way I want it to. But it also takes honesty and a real belief that it underlies and suffuses. And it's sort of like a trust that every Shabbos is going to be different, and you can't know from the Siddur how to daven for the next Shabbos. You can take pieces that seem appropriate at the time. And also, the honesty to say, look, it's Purim today, and I don't feel Purim. And maybe Purim's going to come late this year. I had an acupuncturist who said, David, it's summertime and you're in spring. It's fall, you're going to be in summer. It's going to be winter, you're going to be in fall. He had this idea of what the body's supposed to be doing. He said, I'm always late. I'm always like a season behind. I'm sort of like storing up when I should be letting go. And so I think of the Jewish holidays like that. You know, on Purim, something is supposed to be happening to you psychologically and spiritually at the same time. It's a transformation. It's a madness that comes across you. And it may not happen exactly when you think it should. But sometimes a week late, a week early, you tune in, you're tuning into the Purim energy. You're not looking on the calendar. You're looking on an inner calendar. You say, Purim is sometimes around now, with give or take a few weeks. And Pesach, it's supposed to be a time of liberation. Halavai Amen, may it be so. But sometimes the liberation doesn't happen on the 15th of Nisan. Maybe I'm only talking for myself, but maybe it happens a month later, maybe it happens a month earlier. You look for the inner Pesach, you look for the inner Purim, you look for the inner Shabbos. And so I want, when I'm davening, that something should change. There should be a real transformation, not a repetition or a recitation. And sometimes I go out sort of like on a limb to try to capture that. And when it works, it's so wonderful. When it doesn't work, oy vey. You know, I tried at least. And so part of what I do is to create new forms because the energy is different. It's sort of like going with what I think is happening at the time. And I'm hoping that I'm capturing it for the collective neshama of everyone who's here. And maybe sometimes it happens, maybe sometimes it doesn't. And I try to have the honesty when it doesn't to say it doesn't, and try to have the acceptance that when it does, I say, Mazel and bracha, Mazel and bracha. How Baruch Hashem, how wonderful.
So is that an example of a personal Purim when it comes to?
When it comes to it's awe and wonder. It looks round and it rises up and overflows the boundaries of blessing then. And then it's gone. Let me just say one acute thing that I've been doing lately. I usually bring down Hasidic teachings on the Torah. So in this last one I did a thing of based on the sample, extrapolating to what the other teachings of this Rebbe might be. So it's a way of learning. When you see a teaching from a Rebbe, say, this sounds like that Rebbe would say this in general. And then I was doing another thing saying on second cut chewing, on chewing the second cut, the mother of this Rebbe, trying to get into mother consciousness, would probably just say it much simpler. I'm trying to zero in on that kind of thing. So this is like, I try to keep coming up with new forms to show the Torah. And so that when the Torah is read, people heighten in interest. When you take out the Torah and you open it up, say, what's going to happen now? Rather than, oy vey, the Torah is going to be read, where's the door? You know? When the Torah is open, the interest heightens. So these are my contributions and hopefully modeling of forms for you to develop new Torah, because the Torah is inside you, the Siddur is inside you, and it's different every moment. And it comes out in many different kinds of forms. And davening, this is, tonight was supposed to be about davening. Was it? Did you daven tonight? Was there a little davening? It wasn't the regular davening that you did yesterday. You probably davened yesterday, maybe you didn't even recognize it. And so, in a way, this evening was about davening. Davening with the uniqueness of the energy of the neshama that was here, davening with the uniqueness of the moment. And halavai, that we should be tuned in and also be honest for when it's not happening. Those are sort of like the right and the left hands. You try to tune in as best you can, you try to match the moment and to daven right on the nerve. And sometimes you don't get the nerve. And you forgive yourself and you go on. B'ne'emar v'haya le'melech kol haaretz bayom hahu Yahweh echad u'shemo For myself, right now, I've achieved a certain level of integration of the Hasidic philosophy that I studied, and ability to show it and demonstrate it more than I've ever been able to before. I feel I've integrated it with those things that I needed to learn about my own body and my own emotions and my own mind and my own will. I tried to run away at first, and I kept coming back to it in one way or another.
Mazel tov. I give you a blessing. Yehi Ratzon. First of all, that you have good health, that you have good friends, that you find one mitzvah in which you will be a champion, that you never have to serve in the armed forces of any country, that in your day peace should be established, that you be able to find the right mate with whom you can live your entire life together and produce a home that will be welcoming to those souls that you will bring down. Be blessed on this wonderful day, and if you can, find the time to make your covenant with God, to lead you to the place that will be the utmost achievement you're capable of in your life. That would be wonderful, because I know that not only do people give bar mitzvah presents, but God gives a bar mitzvah present to people who ask at that time for His help. Mazel tov to you.
Rabbi Father Singer, where, oh where have you gone? You left me only this letter and encouraged me to carry on.
You do not come into this world, you grow out of it. You are a symptom of the state of the universe. Shalom.